My name is Claire Lawson. I'm 32, and last month my sister tried to turn my dream vacation into free childcare. I'd spent months planning this California trip, sneaking looks at beach photos between meetings, counting down to the week I could finally turn off my work email and remember what it felt like to breathe. The flights were booked. The hotel was paid in full. My out-of-office reply was already drafted. All I had to do was show up at the airport. Instead, 3 days before my flight, my sister called and didn't even say hello. She just launched straight into it, talking about how her sitter had canceled and the kids were off school and how it works out perfectly because I could just stay at her place for the week. When I reminded her I was leaving town, she laughed like I was making a joke. "You're seriously choosing a trip over your own family?" she snapped. "Helping family is too hard for you now." Within an hour, my mom was on the phone ordering me to cancel. My dad was calling me selfish. And suddenly, I was the villain because I didn't want to throw away thousands of dollars and a once-in-3 years break to babysit. I didn't scream. I didn't beg them to understand. I finished packing my suitcase, printed my boarding pass, and got on that plane anyway. And when I came home, I stepped into my apartment, looked around, and froze. My sister hadn't just tried to guilt-trip me. She'd crossed a line she can't uncross. If you think refusing to babysit doesn't lead to cops, courtrooms, and a family completely blown apart, keep listening. If this had been the first time my sister asked me for a favor, maybe I would have caved. But this wasn't a one-off emergency. This was a pattern that had been building for years. Melissa is 3 years older than me, and when we were kids, she felt like my built-in best friend. We shared a room, shared clothes, whispered about crushes under the covers. Back then, she was the one shielding me from bullies, sneaking me extra dessert, telling me I could do anything. Somewhere between her getting married, having 2 kids, and me moving into my own place in the city, that big sister energy turned into something else. At first, it was small things. "Hey, can you swing by and grab Noah from school? Dan's stuck at work. Or Chloe's got a fever and I'm exhausted. Can you pick up some medicine on your way over?" I didn't mind. I love my niece and nephew, and my job as an event coordinator is flexible enough that I can sometimes leave a little early. But the asks kept growing. Whole Saturday nights vanished because she'd text me an hour before her shift. "You're free, right? Need you to stay with the kids." If I hesitated, she'd remind me of that one time she helped me move apartments. Like that was a lifetime of childcare credit she was still cashing in. By the time I booked my California trip, I was already feeling less like fun aunt and more like backup childcare plan. I told everyone about the vacation months ahead of time. I talked about surfing lessons and beach walks, saved photos of hotel rooms on my phone like they were vision boards, joked that for 1 week I was going to pretend I lived by the ocean. Melissa knew every detail. She rolled her eyes every time I mentioned it, but I thought that was just her being sarcastic. So when she called 3 days before my flight and opened with, "Okay, so here's the plan. You'll just come stay at our place for the week." Like my life was hers to schedule. Something in me snapped a little. I reminded her I'd already paid for everything, that it wasn't refundable, that I needed this break. She didn't back down for even a second. She went straight for guilt, telling me their sitter had bailed, that daycare was too expensive for a whole week, that she and Dan deserved one tiny vacation at a resort, and I should want to help. I suggested apps where you can find pre-screened babysitters. I offered to help her look up options, even said I'd chip in some money if it came down to cost. She cut me off with, "Why would I pay a stranger when my own sister is sitting there doing nothing?" Sitting there doing nothing. That's how she saw my life. Not the late nights at events. Not the weekends on my feet making sure other people's weddings went smoothly. Not the months of planning to give myself 1 week off, just doing nothing. And all because I finally said no. The silence after that phone call didn't last long. The next evening, just as I was finishing up an event timeline on my laptop, my phone lit up with Mom on the screen. I already knew how that conversation was going to go. I answered anyway. She didn't bother with small talk. "Claire, she said in that tight voice she uses when she's already decided I'm wrong. Your sister just called me in tears. What is going on? I leaned back in my chair and stared at the ceiling. She wants me to cancel my trip and watch the kids so she and Dan can go to a resort. I said I told her no. Mom didn't even wait for the rest of the sentence. Cancel the trip, she said, like she was telling me to pick up milk on the way home. Family comes first. You can go to the beach another time. I laughed once because it was either that or cry. I've been planning this for months, Mom. I can't just move it. Everything is paid for. I've been killing myself at work. I need this. She sighed in that disappointed way that says more than any words. Your sister is exhausted. She has 2 kids, a full-time job, a house to manage. You have a job and an apartment. You're single. You're flexible. This is what family does. We help each other. Before I could answer, I heard the click of another phone being picked up, and my dad's voice cut in on the line. Is this true? He asked. Your sister is drowning, and you're refusing to help because you want a vacation. My jaw clenched. That's not what's happening. I've been helping for years. I'm just saying no one time. 1 week. 1 week of you being selfish. He shot back. I didn't raise you to put yourself above your family. Melissa is out there working shifts, raising 2 kids, and you're running off to California to drink cocktails on the beach. How does that look? I could feel my face getting hot even though they couldn't see me. It looks like I'm a grown woman who's allowed to spend her own money on something she's been planning for half a year, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. It looks like I love my niece and nephew, and I've proven that over and over, but I am not their parent. Mom jumped back in. Claire, just cancel the flight. You can get a credit. You can go another time. Your sister needs you now. She said it like it was the most obvious answer in the world, like there weren't non-refundable bookings and PTO requests, and the fact that I was one more meltdown away from burnout. I looked over at the small drawer in my sideboard where I had 2 envelopes tucked away, the surprise I'd been keeping for weeks. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. You know what? I said slowly. There's something I've been meaning to tell you. I walked over, pulled the drawer open, and held the envelopes even though they couldn't see me. This trip, it wasn't just for me. There was a pause on the line. What do you mean? Dad asked. I took a breath. I bought 3 tickets. I booked a bigger room. The plan was for you and Mom to come with me. I was going to surprise you. I thought you could use a break too. The silence this time was different. I could picture them looking at each other. Mom was the first to speak, her voice suddenly softer. You did? Yeah, I said. I wanted to do something nice. You haven't had a real vacation in years. I thought we could go together, just the 3 of us. Dad cleared his throat. When he spoke again, the edge was gone. He started asking questions instead. When were the flights? What hotel? What would we do there? I told them about the harbor cruise I'd booked, the dinner reservation by the water, the little taco place everyone raved about. By the time we hung up, Mom sounded excited. Dad was already joking about buying a straw hat, and not once did either of them tell me to cancel anymore. 10 minutes later, my phone buzzed with a text from Melissa. Nice move, she wrote, buying them off with plane tickets. Guess I know where I stand. I stared at the message for a long time. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, ready to explain, to defend myself, to remind her that this had been the plan all along. Then I set the phone down. For once, I didn't explain. I didn't argue. I let her be angry, and I kept my plans exactly the same. I'm not going to lie. When the plane finally touched down in California, I half expected my phone to light up with some last-minute guilt bomb from Melissa. Instead, all I had were a few work emails and a text from my dad saying, "We just landed too. See you at the hotel." For the first time in a long time, I let myself feel excited at the hotel. Watching my parents walk into the lobby with their little carry-ons, looking around like kids on their first field trip, made every argument worth it. My mom kept saying the place was too nice, and my dad joked he'd never leave if the breakfast was free. That first night, we walked along the harbor, the sky turning pink and gold, my parents stopping every few feet to point at boats or pelicans. At dinner, Mom tried fish tacos for the first time and announced she'd been living wrong her whole life. Dad ordered a drink with a tiny umbrella and pretended not to like it while clearly loving every sip. In between laughing at them, I'd glance at my phone. Nothing from Melissa. No. Hope you have fun. No passive-aggressive comments. Just nothing. On the second day, when we went on the harbor cruise I'd booked, Mom stood at the railing with the wind in her hair, eyes shiny, and whispered, "Thank you, honey. I didn't realize how much I needed this." Dad took about 100 blurry photos and kept saying, "Can't believe we're really here." That night, Mom posted one of the less blurry pictures of the three of us on Facebook, captioned it something simple like California with my girl and a heart emoji. I saw cousins and old family friends commenting, saying how good we looked. Melissa's name never popped up, but I knew she'd see it. I told myself the silence meant she'd cooled off. Maybe she was embarrassed. Maybe she realized she'd pushed too hard. But in the quiet moments, lying in the hotel bed with the air conditioner humming, I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't over. Melissa isn't the type to just let things go. Still, I shoved that thought aside. I went to the beach with my parents, watched my dad stubbornly roll up his jeans instead of buying swim trunks, let my mom drag me into souvenir shops to look at mugs and magnets. For 1 week, I let myself be a daughter and a tourist instead of the on-call babysitter. By the last day, my shoulders had dropped. My brain had finally stopped spinning with work and drama. On the flight home, Mom fell asleep on my shoulder and Dad snored softly across the aisle. And I remember thinking, maybe this trip fixed more than I thought. That feeling lasted right up until my rideshare pulled up in front of my building in Chicago. The lobby looked the same. The hallway smelled the same. I dragged my suitcase to my door, punched in the code, and pushed it open with the easy automatic motion of someone coming home. Then I actually looked inside. My living room looked like it had been picked up and shaken. Couch cushions on the floor, drawers half up, a lamp knocked sideways. From where I stood, I could see my bedroom door open. My jewelry box tipped over on the dresser, its contents scattered. For a second, my brain refused to catch up. I just stood there, suitcase handle still in my hand, hearing my own heartbeat. I had gone on my trip anyway, just like everyone said I shouldn't. And while I was gone, something or someone had made sure I'd pay for it. For a moment, I honestly thought maybe I'd just forgotten to clean before I left. That's how hard my brain was fighting what my eyes were seeing. Then the details started lining up wrong. The drawer under the TV where I keep my passport was open just a little too far. The coat closet door was cracked. One sleeve of a winter jacket caught in the frame like someone slammed it shut in a hurry. My throat went dry. I let go of my suitcase and walked in slowly, like moving too fast would make everything worse. My work laptop wasn't on the coffee table where I'd left it. The charging cable dangled off the edge like someone had yanked it free and never bothered to coil it. In my bedroom, the jewelry box my mom gave me for my 25th birthday lay on its side, little velvet slots empty. The top drawer of my dresser was open, underwear and t-shirts half spilled out. I went straight to the small drawer under my TV where I keep important documents and my passport. Empty. That was the moment my stomach actually flipped. This wasn't just a messy search. Whoever had been here knew exactly where to look. I stood there shaking, and then a single thought cut through the panic. The cameras. After a break-in scare in our building last year, I'd installed a small Nest camera in the corner of the living room and another in the hallway pointed at my front door. They were mostly for peace of mind. Now they were the only thing keeping me from falling apart. My hands fumbled a little as I pulled out my phone and opened the app. I scrubbed. back through the week until I saw it. Tuesday afternoon, 2 days into my trip. The timestamp glowed on the screen as the front door swung open. I leaned closer, expecting a stranger in a hoodie, maybe a masked figure, something that made sense. Instead, I watched my own sister walk into my apartment. Melissa stepped over the threshold like she owned the place, wearing leggings and an oversized sweatshirt. I recognized hair pulled up in a messy bun. In the video, she didn't look nervous. She didn't look rushed. She shut the door behind her, tossed her keys on my entry table, and went straight to my kitchen. I watched her open my fridge, pull out a drink, take a long sip like she'd just gotten home from work. Then she walked into the living room, picked up my laptop, opened it, typed something, and set it back down. A few seconds later, she glanced up toward the camera, right at it. No flinch, no surprise, just a flat, annoyed look like the camera was an inconvenience. Then she moved out of frame. I swiped to the living room camera. There she was again, opening drawers, lifting cushions, going through my sideboard. She went into my bedroom, came back with my jewelry box, sat on the couch, and started picking through it, holding pieces up, setting some aside in a little pile. When she stood, the pile went into her tote bag. Later, she pulled the drawer under the TV where I kept my passport, flipped through it, pulled the passport out, looked at it for a second, and then dropped it into the same bag with the jewelry. I don't know how long I stood there watching my own sister calmly strip my life for parts, but at some point my knees actually buckled and I had to sit down. This wasn't a stranger. This wasn't some desperate thief. This was the person who had just spent a week telling everyone I didn't care about family. I hit pause on the video, took a breath that felt like swallowing broken glass, and did the only thing that made sense. I called the police. My voice shook as I explained there had been a break-in and I had video. And yes, I knew the person, and yes, I wanted to press charges. After I hung up with the dispatcher, I called my parents. When they arrived and I played the video on my TV, my mom's hand flew to her mouth. She watched Melissa pick through my jewelry, saw her slip the necklace Mom had given me into her bag, and actually staggered back a step. My dad didn't say a word. His jaw clenched. His eyes stayed locked on the screen as their oldest daughter drained my life into her tote, one stolen thing at a time. For the first time in my life, I watched my parents see Melissa clearly, and I watched their faces crumble as they realized that by calling me selfish, they'd been defending the wrong daughter. The officers showed up faster than I expected. 2 of them, uniforms crisp, hands resting near their belts, eyes sweeping my apartment in that practiced way that says they have seen far worse. I walked them through every room, pointing out what was missing, what was out of place, what should have been there and wasn't. Then we sat on my couch and I pulled up the footage on my TV. They watched in silence. When Melissa's face came into frame, clear as day, one of them glanced at me. "You said, 'This is your sister?'" he asked. "Yes," I said. The word tasted like rust. "Has she ever had permission to be here when you're not home?" "She used to," I said. "I gave her a key years ago in case of emergencies. I took it back after she started using my place as a drop-off spot without asking. I changed the lock. She has no reason to have a key now." He nodded slowly. "And you're sure you want to move forward with charges?" I thought about the guilt trip over the babysitting. I thought about my parents telling me to cancel my trip, calling me selfish. I thought about my passport in her bag, my work laptop, my jewelry. The way she looked straight into the camera like daring me to do something about it. "I'm sure," I said. The next few days were a blur of statements, forms, and phone calls. The detectives got a warrant to search her house in the suburbs. They found my laptop in a closet, wiped clean, but still traceable. The serial number matching my purchase receipt. They found my passport in a kitchen drawer like it was just some random thing lying around. They found the necklace my mom gave me for my birthday shoved in the back of Melissa's jewelry box. When they brought her in, from what the detective told me, She tried to spin it at first. She said she was only checking on my place while I was gone, that she was borrowing a few things until I got back, that we share everything as sisters, and this was just a misunderstanding blown out of proportion. Then they showed her the video. The detective said her face changed when she saw herself on the screen. Not in the shocked way of someone caught doing something they regret, but in the angry way of someone annoyed they have to deal with consequences. She still insisted it was family business, that it shouldn't involve the police. Too late for that. Word got around faster than I would have believed possible. Her manager at the big box store heard about the arrest before Melissa even had a chance to spin her version. They suspended her, then quietly let her go. Apparently, caught on camera stealing from a relative is not a good look for someone who has access to inventory and cash. When the court date came, I sat on one side of the room with my parents. Melissa sat on the other with her public defender, jaw set, eyes forward. She had to plead to a reduced charge, but it was still on her record. Burglary, theft, restitution, community service, a period of probation, and a no-contact order for me, at least for a while. The judge asked if she had anything to say. Melissa finally turned to face the courtroom. "I was just tired," she said. "I do everything. I work. I take care of the kids. My husband is gone half the time. Claire gets to run around planning parties and going on vacations. I just wanted her to understand what it feels like to lose something the way I lost my freedom. Not one word of I'm sorry. Not a hint that she saw anything wrong with walking into my home and treating my things like collateral for my refusal to babysit. Sitting there listening to her call my life running around, hearing her paint herself like a victim of my boundaries. Something in me went cold. My mom wiped tears off her face. My dad stared at the floor like he wanted it to swallow him. When the sentence was handed down, there was no dramatic gasp, no TV movie meltdown, just details. Months of probation, a chunk of her paychecks going to restitution once she found new work, mandatory counseling, a restraining order, and an unspoken truth settling over all of us. Even when her sentence ended, nothing between us would ever go back to what it was. In the weeks after court, everything went quiet in a way that didn't feel like peace so much as aftermath. It was like someone had yanked the power cord out of our family and we were all walking around in the dark, pretending we could still see. Melissa worked through her probation and community service somewhere offstage from my life. I didn't talk to her. Couldn't have even if I'd wanted to. The no-contact order meant no calls, no texts, no accidental run-ins, no showing up at my door with the kids as an excuse. Every now and then, my parents would mention her in passing, how she complained about picking up trash on the side of the highway, how she told the counselor there was nothing wrong with what she did, how she still insisted this should have been a family matter. But for the first time in years, my phone wasn't lighting up with last minute, "Hey, can you watch the kids?" Messages or guilt-laced demands disguised as favors. I went to work, ran events, dealt with stressed-out brides and conference organizers, and when I came home, my apartment was just my apartment. No toys left on the floor, no sippy cups in the sink from an unplanned drop-off. No sense that at any moment my evening could be hijacked. The amount of mental space that opened up when I wasn't constantly bracing for the next request was honestly shocking. With all that empty space, I had to figure out what to do with myself besides wait for drama. I joined a support group online, a little corner of the internet for people dealing with toxic or manipulative family dynamics. At first, I just read. I scrolled through posts from people with parents who pitted siblings against each other, siblings who treated "you're single" like a debit card they could swipe whenever they needed free labor. Story after story sounded uncomfortably familiar. The cousin who only called when she needed money. The brother who expected his sister to drop everything for his kids because she didn't have a real family yet. It was like someone had taken pieces of my life and translated them into other people's voices. Eventually, I started sharing too. Not the whole story at once, just bits. How You're flexible had become code for your plans don't matter. How every note came with a lecture. How my sister walked into my home with a spare key and walked out with my passport. People didn't tell me I'd overreacted. They didn't ask why I didn't just let it go for the sake of family. They said words like boundary stomping, entitled, and emotional manipulation. And for the first time, those words didn't feel too harsh. They felt accurate. Meanwhile, my relationship with my parents started to look different. On Sundays, they began driving into the city more often, grumbling about parking prices, but showing up anyway. Sometimes we'd go to a casual diner near my place. Sometimes I'd cook something simple and we'd eat at my tiny kitchen table. My dad would complain about the traffic on the highway. My mom would ask a million questions about whatever event I had coming up that week. Every so often, in the middle of passing the salad or pouring more iced tea, one of them would go quiet and say something like, "We're so sorry we didn't listen to you sooner." Or, "I can't believe we called you selfish." The first few times, those comments stung more than they soothed. Part of me wanted to snap. You could have believed me when it was just my word. But another part of me knew that at least now they were seeing it for themselves, without me having to twist myself into knots to prove it. I'm not sure the resentment will ever disappear completely, but I can feel it loosening its grip. I never went back to being the on-call babysitter. Even after the no-contact order expired, I kept my line in the sand. I sent birthday presents to my niece and nephew through the mail. Books, little craft kits, things their mom couldn't twist into a weapon. But I didn't go to their house. Didn't sit on Melissa's couch and pretend I didn't remember my laptop sitting in her closet, my passport in her drawer. Those kids don't deserve to be punished for their mother's choices. But I don't deserve to walk back into a situation that already proved it's not safe for me. Loving them and protecting myself at the same time is a weird balance, but it's one I'm finally willing to hold. The biggest lesson in all of this was ugly and simple. Where family is not a free pass. It doesn't erase basic respect. It doesn't mean you owe someone your time, your money, your mental health, or the keys to your front door just because you share DNA. Real family, whether they're related to you or not, doesn't punish you for having a life of your own. They might be disappointed sometimes. Sure, they might wish you'd made a different choice, but they don't break into your home to make a point because you dared to say no. Calling the police on my own sister was one of the hardest decisions I've ever made, and there are still days I wish I'd never been put in a position to make it. But every time I unlock my front door now and know exactly who has access to my space, every time I say no without writing a 3-paragraph essay to justify it, I know I did the right thing. Setting boundaries doesn't make you heartless. It means you finally realized your safety and your sanity matter. Even when the person hurting you shares your last name. And if someone in your family was standing in my shoes, if your own sibling walked into your house because you wouldn't babysit and treated everything you own like collateral for their resentment, what would you tell them to do? Would you really ask them to forgive and forget for the sake of family? Or is there a line that once crossed means there's simply no way back to what was? Our team at Revenge Mangan is dedicated to crafting meaningful, emotional, story-based scripts that keep viewers engaged while still feeling real. All of our revenge stories are entirely fictional and created with the goal of sharing life lessons and positive educational messages with our audience. This script highlights the importance of personal boundaries, showing viewers that saying no, even to family, is sometimes necessary for mental health and safety. It also teaches that love does not mean accepting manipulation or abuse and that actions have real consequences even inside a family. Through this family revenge story, viewers are encouraged to reflect on respect, responsibility, and what healthy family relationships should truly look like.